For the longest time, men were bound to horseback and wagons to travel. This made travel rare and hard to accomplish. On long journeys, people were often not expected to survive the trip. The American people have innovated this through various ways, even those that had been invented prior and in other countries, such as the steam engine, the simple invention which revolutionized transportation and history as a whole.
While steam engines were not an American invention, they were revolutionized by Americans. Originally patented in 1698 as a simple device to clear water out of mines in England, it gained a lot of traction in America as a means of locomotion, using steam to push a piston or multiple pistons. The vast amount of rivers in the United States led to the popularity of the steam engine used in boats. This allowed boats to go both upstream and downstream, which revolutionized trade and efficiency of travel. Once they began using them in trains, people began continually improving on the design again and again. All of the improvements done to the original engine eventually led to much more impressive inventions, such as the gas combustion engine as well as the diesel combustion engine. Of course, the modern plane engine is also based on the general idea of the steam engine. The steam engine, in its entirety, is the true beginning of all modern transportation and the start of a new era for humanity.
So, boats were the first piece of transportation that was invented, but basically it was just a whole bunch of logs tied together and sticks to move down rivers for a trade and all that kind of stuff way back in the day, like back in BC. But at the start of 4000 BC, they started inventing sailboats and using the wind to transport to other places and move across. And in 4000 BC, they invented reeds, so you can actually move the big part of the sailboat so you can move which direction you want to. And then by 2500 BC is when boats could first cross oceans, which is a huge break point for boats, because that together allows people to go to other countries, and just to be able to go to other countries across the ocean is massive, because you get to explore more land, and that's why America's here, because boats can cross the ocean, and that was huge. And then by 1450 AD, mastered sailboats, and they could finally carry cargo, so they could put it in battleships and stuff, which helped with war and a lot. And then by 1819, boats started to use steam and power, which is another break point, because using steam and power helped them move faster. It made everything, like production of everything, faster with transportation, and just like being able to help on war and everything. So that was probably the biggest breakthrough. And that was because of James Watt, who invented the first steamboat in 1769, and that traveled through the Delaware River at first, and it became the biggest breakthrough for boats to this day.
While the boat ruled the seas, the lands were being connected in another way: rail. Railway wasn't an American invention, it originated in the British Empire. Following British models, the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad started construction on July 4th, 1828. But to say that imitation was the only thing Americans could do is a wild understatement. The innovative minds of the American people are nothing to be scoffed at. Matter of fact, they have put the plans in motion to allow for greater travel within this expansive republic. This can be seen with the 1830 invention of the passenger train, meaning that ferrying citizens across the vast swaths of land that comprises America would be far less labor-intensive than before. However, American ambitions would stretch far beyond just making travel more efficient. We would be connecting a continent. On May 10, 1869, the greatest American industrial achievement was completed with a spike of gold, the Transcontinental Railroad. This great feat would allow for the eastern seaboard to finally be connected to the west coast. Yet rail wasn't done reaching new heights. Trains would later be used as the engines of combat. Delivery of troops via rail was one of the major turning points in the rail industry. The Battle of Bull Run was one of the first battles to make use of it. Even with the decline of rail production, the usage skyrocketed. By the 1900s, rail was the most dependent factor for a town's economy. Unfortunately, the dominance that rail had was to decline due to a far more compact horseless carriage.
The history of the American car starts in 1908 with Henry Ford and his Model T. It was the first car to ever be made available to the public. He innovated most, if not all, of the current manufacturing procedures used today in car factories. The invention and mass production of cars used caused more paved roads to be built as their need for safer and more comfortable travel. The existing American culture today would not exist without cars, as cars have shaped it. They are a staple of the American people and American culture today. People use them for show and travel all around America. Cars have also allowed for safer and quicker travel, allowing people to relocate to different places across the country and have a lot more access to jobs that may be farther away than where they live. They also made travel much, much more affordable, because instead of having to buy a train ticket, you can just hop in your car and drive. Today, cars are used for more than just travel. They are also used for competition and show.
Trains, boats, and automobiles were all very important in the development of modern transportation, but the successful creation of aircraft changed everything. Well, not everything. It began when a French naval officer, Félix du Temple, created the first successful aircraft. Contrary to popular belief, the Wright brothers didn't create the first functioning aircraft. They did, however, create the first operating airplane. Du Temple created the first monoplane. Decades later, Tony Jannus would be the first to fly the first commercial aircraft on January 1st, 1914. Aviation's greatest contribution, unfortunately, has probably been to war. It's a whole new game. Planes were used as weapons. The war that planes were first introduced was World War I, and then again in the Second World War. World War II also introduced the first nuclear weapons, which were dropped from planes and totally destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Incredibly, casually annihilating multiple cities at a time isn't the only thing aviation has accomplished. On October 14, 1947, possibly the most impressive feat of aviation was accomplished. Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier with his rocket-powered aircraft.
In short, the American people were a creative and innovative people who took what they had and decided to branch off, finding new ways to break the barrier that limited them in their entire country. As the days progress, we may not see as many innovations coming from America now. Yet, history as a whole would not be the same without the inventions and innovations of the American people.